Hello, my name is Preeti Emmerich, and I am the Director of the Anne Arundel County Office of Emergency Management. Anne Arundel County is facing some challenging times, being in a global pandemic, but also facing an active hurricane season. That is why Anne Arundel County has designated this week as Hurricane Preparedness Week, where my staff will offer tips on better preparedness, response, and recovery to ensure that all residents of Anne Arundel County are safe this season. I'd like to introduce Brianna Craggy, my Training and Exercise Coordinator, who will moderate this week's discussions. Brianna?
My name is Brianna Cracky, and I am the Training and Exercise Coordinator for the Anne Arundel County Office of Emergency Management. This week, as Director Emmerich mentioned, is the Anne Arundel County Hurricane Preparedness Week, and today I am joined with our Community Outreach Coordinator, James Krempel. So James is here to tell us about preparedness for tropical cyclone or hurricane, especially during the pandemic. Jim, how should our viewers prepare?
Well, thank you, Brianna. Fortunately, unlike a tornado, a hurricane is a pretty slow-moving event, so most of our viewers will be alerted well ahead of the storm. But that doesn't mean that preparation should begin any time other than today, where the weather's good, the grocery stores are full, and there's time to build a smart hurricane plan in advance. Properly prepared for a hurricane, an individual can be prepared for any natural disaster.
So how should people plan for a tropical storm or any major disaster?
Well, everything begins at home, right? So the first thing you should do is check the condition of your home. Make repairs today. Look at your roof and garage, which are especially susceptible to hurricane winds. Look for weak trees or tree limbs that might come down and damage the house. Then check out the elevation of your home, so you can see how high above sea level it is. There are a number of places that can be Googled to find that. And then look at how close to the bay you are, or if you live in an area that's always prone to flooding. If that's the case, then you might want to apply for the National Flood Insurance Program. Ask your insurance agency if you have enough coverage. Now remember that I mentioned NFIP, the Flood Insurance Program, because normal homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. The flood insurance program is reasonable, the rates are good, but it must be in place 30 days before making an insurance claim. And you can simply Google NFIP for National Flood Insurance Program. Beyond your home, think of other risks. So some people who have disabilities, chronic illnesses, or they need electric power medical devices, especially if they're living alone, may be more susceptible to the danger of a storm. Anybody that has that kind of condition needs to plan early, plan with their family, trusted friends, or caregivers, because they face more risk and they have to do it a little more carefully. But all of us during this storm need to think about the pandemic, as you know. Mm-hmm. So a number of things you do is to, of course, wear the face covering at all times, stay socially distanced about 6 feet apart, like we are here, wash your hands frequently with soap or water for at least 20 seconds for hand washing, and the sanitizer should be at least 60% ethyl alcohol. If you feel ill, stay at home. Contact your healthcare provider. If you want information about COVID or to get a COVID test, you can call the county COVID line at 410-222-7256. And remember to get a flu shot as quickly as possible. They're out there now. That'll lessen the impact of the epidemic.
So what other planning steps should people consider?
Well, the next thing to do is to consider and develop an evacuation plan. So you consider voluntary evacuation in advance if you live in a low-lying peninsula, especially with a single road out, and we have a lot of communities that are in that way. If you live in a mobile or prefabricated home, they cannot withstand hurricane force winds, so it's, again, think about voluntary evacuation. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have a chronic illness or disability, especially if you live alone, consider leaving early. If you do need to evacuate, consider where you'll go, what primary and alternate routes you'll take, and whether you go evacuating, if you have pets, do they accept pets there? If you're unable to drive yourself, make advanced arrangements today with a family member, a trusted neighbor, or a professional caregiver. Once tropical storm winds start, it's safer to shelter in place or hunker down. The next thing we do is stay connected. That means stay connected with family members, friends, and others in the neighborhood. Check on your neighbors, but do it COVID safe. Make sure and wear the mask and stay 6 feet apart. Have a communications plan. That means to contact somebody that you trust outside of your own area, maybe even out of state. They become your family switchboard operator. So you can tell them if you're okay, whether you're sheltering in place or whether you need to evacuate into where. And remember that text messages will go through when voice messages may not. The three things you have to say are very simple: who you are, where you are, and what your status is. This is Jim. I'm at home and I'm safely sheltered. And that's all you need to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that helpful information. So moving on, how can our citizens stay informed about weather conditions?
Well, thank you, Brianna. Like we said before, tropical storms usually move fairly slowly, so we're lucky on that. But you have to be aware of them in advance to take appropriate action. So we say monitor the weather on TV and radio during storm season. And I might add, not just for hurricanes, but tornadoes and the afternoon storms we've been having can be quite severe with flooding. You can also buy an inexpensive NOAA weather radio, and our website and social media will have information on these. And then I recommend everyone subscribe without cost to Alert Anne Arundel. That's our mass notification system. That sends emergency warnings and information direct to your cell phone as either text or voice messages in several languages, believe it or not. And to subscribe, you can visit our website at www.aacounty.org/OEM for Office of Emergency Management.
So what about emergency supplies?
Well, you want to build an emergency kit for yourself, and it doesn't make any difference if you're talking about a single householder or you're talking about a family of 10. You need basic supplies for at least 5 days per person. And most of these are common sense items you already have around the house. Assemble them in advance so you don't have to worry about going to the store when the shelves are empty. And any kit that you build for hurricanes can cover any other emergencies, to include snowstorms, for example. What does the kit contain? Well, the first thing you need is 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and sanitization. So if you think about the larger bottle of this, a case of bottled water per person is good for 3 days. So if you want to be prepared for 6 days, buy 2 cases per person. Very easy way and inexpensive way to think about that. Have at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable foods, and include your pets too. Have flashlights and extra batteries. If you have a baby, you might need baby supplies and baby formula. Make sure you have your cell phone and charger and keep it charged in advance. Buy a battery-powered or hand-crank radio and have extra batteries. We keep coming back to that, but you don't want to look for batteries in a storm. Have a first aid kit and prescription medicines, and have at least 1 month of prescription medicines on hand if possible. That's a safety factor. Have 2 face masks per person, and also have latex gloves for every member of your family. Include personal hygiene items, including soap, hand sanitizer, like we said, 60% alcohol or more, and disinfectant wipes. Have medical items on hand such as glasses, hearing aids with extra batteries, and walkers, and if you use oxygen, supplemental oxygen. Don't forget maps for evacuation, as your GPS may not work. And secure important papers like passports, insurance information, medical information in a waterproof container or Ziploc bag. It's a good idea to keep a digital copy as well. You can keep it on a thumb drive and give it to a trusted family member, or keep it in safe storage on the cloud. So this kit sounds pretty daunting, but if you build it over time, you can even split the cost with a family member, friend, or neighbor and save time and some expense.
Awesome. I know you mentioned in the kit to have a flashlight and spare batteries on hand. So what should residents do during a power outage?
So you can expect a power outage during any major storm, especially a tropical storm. So we recommend 2 flashlights, headlamps, or battery lanterns, and spare batteries for all of them. Make sure you have the right batteries and they're fresh. That's safer and much longer lasting than a candle. Fully charge your cell phones with rechargeable batteries and keep extra batteries on hand. Now turn up your refrigerator and freezer to their maximum setting and try to keep them closed. Beyond that, non-perishable food, canned goods, crackers, and granola bars should last you. And your freezer could probably be good, if you don't open it, for up to 48 days because they're hard frozen. Remember, if you use canned goods to have a manual can opener, electricity will be gone most likely. If you have a home generator, make sure it's properly maintained, it's fueled, it's located in an area that's safe to operate to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning or a fire. And if you use electric-powered medical equipment, have a generator and have it tested, or move to a place with steady power with a friend or neighbor.
So who is more at risk for inclement weather?
Well, those with disabilities or chronic illnesses are at greater risk simply because they have their limited mobility and they need to make more careful arrangements with a family member, a trusted friend, or a caregiver. But the greatest risk is those people who foolishly ignore an evacuation order when life-threatening conditions are imminent. Riding out a hurricane in a flood-prone area is a very dangerous gamble, especially if you live in a mobile home.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today to give us preparedness tips for hurricane season and any natural hazard.
Thank you, Brianna.
So prepare today for tomorrow's storm. Like most natural hazards, hurricanes are potential disasters we can plan for today to be better prepared for them tomorrow. If you have any questions about today's show or have any interest in requesting a virtual presentation, preparedness presentation, please contact the Office of Emergency Management at 410-222-0600 or visit us online at aacounty.org/OEM. Please remember to follow us on our many social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram for more hurricane preparedness tips and pandemic planning throughout the week. If you have any questions about the coronavirus pandemic, please call the COVID-19 Information Center at 410-222-7256. And this is Brianna Crackey with the Anne Arundel County Office of Emergency Management, thanking you for joining us today and urging you to prepare today for tomorrow's storm. Thank you.
Fully charge your cell phones with rechargeable batteries and keep extra batteries on hand. Now turn up your refrigerator and freezer to their maximum setting and try to keep them closed. Believe it or not, an unopened refrigerator is only really good for about 4 hours because people just can't help but getting in and out of the refrigerator, especially if you have kids.
I'm sorry.
Beyond that, non-perishable food, canned goods, crackers, and granola bars should last